Hello everyone, welcome to our channel, and today I'm going to publish the second video on world history, that is the American War of Independence. Here I have covered the almost complete syllabus, and also based on the previous year questions, I have included all the points here, and also all the presentation of the video will be in the form of different images or like flashcards, so that it is easier for you to understand, and also you can easily remember for the examination preparation. And this is a complete syllabus which is based for the Kerala State Administrative Service, as well as the UPSC and civil service examinations. Okay, let's move on to the first video. American War of Independence. The American War of Independence, it started in the year 1776. Okay, has started in the year 1776. There are different causes of American Revolution which has been plotted in a fishbone diagram here, and the different causes are French and Indian War that happened in 1754 to 1763, and Stamp Act 1765, Boston Massacre 1770, Tea Act 1773, Proclamation of 1763, Townshend Acts 1767, Boston Tea Party 1773, Intolerable Acts 1774. These are the main causes of the American Revolution. I have explained in the later videos about these causes in detail. You have to understand few points here, like French and because of the French and Indian War, then because of Stamp Act and Boston Massacre, Tea Act, Proclamation of 1763, Townshend Acts, Boston Tea Party, and few intolerable acts. These were the reasons for American War of Independence, which started in the year 1776. Okay, now let's move on to the history of United States of America. Christopher Columbus, he is a sailor of Spanish government. He reached America in the year 1492. So Christopher Columbus is discovering America in the year 1492. And also Amerigo Vespucci voyages in the year 1497 to 1513. Okay, and 1620 you can see the arriving of the pilgrims at the site of Present Day Plymouth, Massachusetts. So the pilgrims have arrived in America. Actually, the pilgrims or the pilgrim fathers were the English settlers who established the Plymouth colony in Plymouth, Massachusetts. The ship in which the pilgrim fathers came to America is Mayflower. This question is asked in the previous examination, like through which ship the pilgrim fathers came to America. It is through Mayflower. The ship name is Mayflower. Okay, so the earliest colonies of America were established by these pilgrim fathers. And also you can see there are around 13 colonies established in the eastern coast of America, North America, by the England. The England have established few colonies in America, and a few of the colonies are New Hampshire, Maryland, Virginia, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and New York. Okay, these are the 13 colonies which has been established by the England. You can see this, like the American colonies, also called the 13 colonies or the colonial America, the 13 British colonies. These British colonies were established during the 17th and early 18th centuries. This is the part of eastern United States. Let me name the 13 colonies again. They are New Hampshire, New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. You can see these occupies the eastern side of the United States. Actually, these England or the British, they began to establish the colonies in the North America in the 1500s. So why the reasons for establishing the colonies are because of new trade opportunities and also for raw materials. The first colony established by the British is North Carolina, that is in Roanoke Island. So North Carolina is the first first colony established by the British in United States. Hope this slide is clear for you, and let's move on to the next slide. Okay. And actually, you can see that in this video we are explaining about the mercantilism. The major problem in the 17th century is for the influences on the policies. So monetary contractions and demographic stagnation with periodic commercial crises or slumps. Actually the goods to and from colonies must be carried only in British ships and the ships built in British colonies. There were few mercantilist laws established by the British, like the goods from the colonies must be carried from the British ships or the ships built in British colonies. And also all the British stamp must be affixed on all legal documents including newspapers, pamphlets or licenses, etc. And also another rule from the British is that the few products of the colonies like cotton, sugar, wool, tobacco could only be exported to England. They have been exported these goods to different countries, but they have limited the exportation to the England alone. And also the colonies must provide food and quarters for the British troops which were maintained in the colonies. And also they have few tax must be paid, like for import tax, like for tea, glass and paper, they have imported the tax. And also the British Parliament has imposed tax in the year 1764 to American colonies, and it is called as sugar tax. So British treated these colonies as centers for collecting raw materials for their factory and as a market for selling these producers. And this policy is known as mercantilism. Like British treated these colonies as centers for collecting raw materials for their factory and as a market for selling these producers. And also they took advantages like imposing tax on them, and also they said like they have to affix the British stamp on all the legal documents, and also they used only British ships. They are supposed to use only British ships to transport the goods. This is actually called mercantilism, and this is one of the reason that the American War of Independence has been broke out. And you can see these few American political philosophy. John Locke was the most influential political philosopher of the period of American Revolution. He believed the idea that the people had created a social contract with their governments. The government's duty was to protect the natural rights of these people. In return, the people gave their consent to be government. So few philosophers influenced the American War of Independence, and John Locke, who is having the idea of social contract with their governments, is also an influence of the American War of Independence. And you can see Thomas Paine also. He was at the beginning, he was not a supporter of American Revolution, but after like in the later part of his life, he became a dedicated revolutionary after fighting began. You can see in 1776 pamphlet Common Sense was very successful and had an important influence on American public opinion towards the revolution. It caused many neutrals to become patriots. Like Thomas Paine, in his later part of the life, he became a revolutionist, and also he in his work like pamphlet in 1776, Common Sense, which even converted many neutrals to make them to involve in the American War of Independence. So Common Sense is his work which influenced the American War of Independence. And also here I have given few slogans of American revolutions, like in the question you may be asked, like giving a slogan, and it will ask which revolution it has been associated with, so that you will be easy for you to reply. In the questions, there will be different type of questions can be asked, like there are slogans for French Revolution and Russian Revolution also. So don't get confused, just learn, go through this American Revolution, and in the later videos I will include the slogans for all the revolutions. So the slogans for American Revolution is give me liberty or give me death. No taxation without representation. Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes. We have not yet begun to fight. So let me give these slogans once again. The give me liberty or give me death. No taxation without representation. Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes. We have not yet begun to fight. So the question may be asked like this, like the slogan no taxation without representation is associated with American War of Independence. Actually, the slogan, the no taxation without representation, was framed by James Otis. Okay, he is also a philosopher at the time of American War of Independence. And the Thomas Paine, he through his pamphlet, The Common Sense, he declared that it was wise for Americans to break the ties with the Britain. He was in the main motto of this pamphlet was to break the relationship between British and the American at that time. So he said it was wise for the Americans to break the ties with the Britain. And also the John Locke, here he said like everyone has some fundamental rights, no government has the rights to suspend them. So he was also against the British government, saying that everyone has the fundamental rights and also no government has the right to suspend them. And Thomas Paine and John Locke were the at that time they were the famous philosophers at the time of American War of Independence, and also few other philosophers like James Otis, who said no taxation without representation. He was also influenced the American War of Independence. Okay. Now these are the few causes, important causes, which caused the American War of Independence. I have explained it, like I have named it before. And first, let me explain about the Stamp Act. Excuse me. Stamp Act. It actually it is the act of British. It is implemented in the year 1765. The Stamp Act was passed on the year 1765. What they said is the required for newspapers. They said like they have to British stamp must be affixed on all legal documents like newspapers, pamphlets, licenses, and even bonds or any advertisements, notes, etc. And also these the basis on the, and also they have given the stamp, released the stamp for the American colonies that they should include their stamp that to be affixed in all the legal documents. And this is Stamp Act which has been passed in the year 1765. Now let's move on to the Townshend Act. Actually, the Townshend Act was passed in the year 1767. That is two years later the Stamp Act has been released. 1767 Townshend Act was passed. This Townshend Act, after the Stamp Act was repeated, a man named Charles Townshend imposed an indirect tax on items such as lead, glass, paper, and tea. Okay, and these are import tax, these are the things imported from British and all, and they have to pay the Americans has to pay the tax, the indirect tax on such as lead, glass, paper, and tea, and this was imposed by Charles Townshend. So Townshend hoped that the colonists would not notice the price increase. This indirect tax was collected at the seaports before the items reached the colonial stores. Therefore, when the colonists went to buy these items, the tax was already included in the price. So unlike the Stamp Act, where the colonies were aware of the added tax. The colonies did recognize, later on the colonies recognized that the indirect tax has been imposed on, and also they once again boycotted the British goods. So they were upset with the unjust form of taxation without representation, and that is the Townshend Act of 1767 imposed by Charles Townshend. And we have to understand this is an indirect tax which has been imposed on lead, glass, paper, and tea. Previously, of the colonists were not aware of it, and later on they identified it and they opposed for it. And that is the opposed for the Townshend Act 1767. And now let me explain about the Boston Tea Party. Boston Tea Party, this happened in the year 1773. Okay, actually we have after Stamp Act, after the Stamp Act, 2 years later you can see that Townshend Act, and then around after 5 years the Boston Tea Party occurred. In 1773, the Boston Tea Party was when the colonists were bringing in tea from the East India Company and England. The colonists went to the Boston Harbor and dumped the tea into the Boston Harbor while John Hancock stood on guard. This was happening because the people were revolting about the British taxes. After the issues happened after the Townshend Act on the year of 1773, there is a harbor named Boston Harbor where they will get the goods of tea from England. So what the colonists did is they boycotted, they went to the harbor and dumped all the goods, included the tea goods, and they dumped into the sea. So that this was also happening. The British this revolting this is the main rise from the colonists against the British. Okay. Actually, regarding the Boston Tea Party, let me give you one more point. This Boston Tea Party happened in 16th December 1773. They around the amount of tea that has been dumped into the sea was around 342 chest. 342 chest of tea. So in December 1773, a group of people boarded the ships at Boston Harbor and they threw around 342 chest of tea into the sea. This protest is known as Boston Tea Party. Now, let me explain about the Continental Congress. Actually, the first Continental Congress was held in the year 1774 and this held in Philadelphia. The Continental Congress was a meeting of delegates from each of the 13 American colonies. These delegates served as a government during the Revolutionary War. The first Continental Congress took place from September 5 through October 26, 1774 and this held in Philadelphia. And also the second Continental Congress, it held in the year 1775. This also held in Philadelphia. Okay, here you can see the first Continental Congress. The colonists sent a declaration of rights to King George III. And the delegates urged each of the colonies to refuse all trade with England until the British tax and trade regulations were repealed. So they said they want continue trade with England until the British remove stop all the taxes and also the trade regulations with the America. And the second Continental Congress, this happened in the year 1775 and each of the 13 colonies sent representatives to be gathering in Philadelphia, and the second Continental Congress served as the first government of United States from 1776 to 1781. Actually, George Washington was elected as a commander-in-chief for Continental Army, and this happened in Second Continental Congress. So George Washington was elected as a commander-in-chief of Continental Army, and this happened in Second Continental Congress. And the Continental Congress issued the Declaration of Independence on 4th July 1776. So from 4th July 1776 they declared independence. So the Declaration of American Independence was on 4th July 1776 and it was drafted by Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin. So the Declaration of Independence was signed on July 4th, 1776 and the main writer was Thomas Jefferson and also Benjamin Franklin was there as the writer. The Declaration of Independence was written to tell the world that the United States was now a free independent country, and also King George III was a ruler of Britain, and also they want to inform the world that they are free from the rule of King George III. Okay. And I have explained about two members who were responsible for writing the Declaration of Independence. So there were actually 5 members, and in that Thomas Jefferson was a primary. He contributed much for the writing, and other members were Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Roger Sherman, and Robert B. Livingston. Okay, now let me explain about the Treaty of Paris, which happened in 1783. Actually, the Treaty of Paris is the treaty by which the England confirmed the freedom of American colonies. So the American colonists gained the territory due to the American Revolution. So the Great Britain agreed to give this territory to American colonists. So previously I have said like 13 colonies were the part of American territory, sorry, British territory, and this 13 colonies were freed, and it is signed by the Treaty of Paris, which happened in the year 1783. Now let's get into like George Washington. He is the first President of United States, the Commander-in-Chief of American and French forces in the American Revolution. He presided over Constitutional Convention that led to the adoption of Constitution of United States. He is famous for his farewell address in 1796. Now, the second President of America was John Adams. This has been asked in previous civil service examination. After Washington retired, his Vice President John Adams became the second President, and John Jefferson became the Vice President. So the first President of America was George Washington, and the second President of America was John Adams. Okay, now we want to discuss about Abraham Lincoln. He is one of the famous president in America. Actually, the Abraham Lincoln was elected as a president in the years 1860. Excuse me, 1860 in November, and the slavery was abolished in America in the year 1st January 1863 during his rule. And also the Emancipation Proclamation was issued by President Lincoln in the year September 1862. However, it didn't came to effect until January 1863. And also the Congress orders Lincoln to suspend the right of habeas corpus in the March 1863. In 1864, Lincoln pocket vetoed and the Davis Bill for radical reconstruction. And November 1864, Lincoln was re-elected as the president, and he abolished slavery in the year 1st January 1863. And American president who was assassinated, the first American person to get assassinated was Abraham Lincoln, and this happened in the year 1865 while the President Lincoln was watching the comedy play My American Cousin at Ford's Theater. So John Wilkes Booth assassinated Lincoln on April 14, 1865 while he was watching the play. Okay, now introduction to US Constitution. I have said like it is written in Philadelphia. The original intent was to revise the articles. Father of American Constitution is James Madison. Father of American Constitution is James Madison. Father of the Constitution is James Madison. So 39 men signed it in 1787. American Constitution was signed in the year 1787. And also the American Constitution is the smallest written constitution in the world. It came into existence in the year 1789. So also the American Constitution is the first written constitution in the world. It is first written constitution, smallest written constitution, which came into existence in the year 1789, and father of American Constitution is James Madison. And that's all about American War of Independence. And I want to conclude. Let's get deeper into other revolutions in the future videos. So see you in the next video. Thank you.